Hey, Dr. John Finn here. Welcome to the Habit Mechanic podcast. Right now, you can get my new best-selling book, Train Your Brain for the AI Revolution, at tougherminds.co.uk. The digital book, audiobook, and physical book are all available at a special price that you won't find anywhere else.
In this Tougher Minds podcast, the Amazon documentary All or Nothing is our theme. The series offered an inside view of Premier League champions Manchester City. It showed manager Pep Guardiola striving to create a culture that consistently delivers world-class performances. Tougher Minds founder Dr. John Finn discussed this and highlighted how we can all start to build winning cultures in our own organisations and teams.
So the All or Nothing Amazon documentary followed Man City over the course of last season, which I think they certainly broke some records in that period of time, won the league. And it was an in-depth behind-the-scenes look of what was going on. We know that was a very powerful, very successful culture. So from my own perspective, I was interested in trying to understand, well, what's going on there? What's making these people tick? And very interesting, Guardiola, in a fairly recent interview, talked about his aim isn't to win league titles or cup titles. His aim is actually to create a culture which focuses on training well, preparing well, and improving every day. And a huge part of our work is to help organisations to build better cultures that help people to be healthier and happier and perform to their best more often. So if you think about what's Guardiola and his team doing to actually get those kind of outcomes, if we're gonna help people to achieve things like training well, preparing well, improving every day, which could be quite generic ideas for very high performing cultures across business and sport and other sectors, you've got to understand, well, what are the core habits that actually make those things happen? Why do we need to look at the habits? Because unbeknown to most people, most of what we're doing is simply a habit. Up to 95% of what we're doing right now it's subconscious, it's mindless. I'm not thinking very consciously about what I'm saying right now. It's coming out because I've practiced thinking about these areas a lot. So most of any behaviour in any culture is mindless behaviour, it's habitual behaviour. So we have to think, well, how do we build the habits that allow us to achieve the outcomes that we want, like training well, preparing well, improving every day? So to do that, we have to think, well, what are the habits that drive those things? And of course, there'll be a whole list of different habits, starting with sleeping well every night, because none of those things can happen very well if we don't sleep well, eating well. Maybe having the habit of constantly reflecting on ourselves and looking for the things not only that we're good at, but the things we can improve. So there isn't anywhere in the All or Nothing documentary where Guardiola explicitly describes those habits, but I'm sure he has them in mind. And maybe he doesn't think of them quite like that, but ultimately what he's trying to get his players to do is to build these more helpful habits that align with the outcomes that he wants to achieve. Now, if we want to build habits, what we need is knowledge and skills. So if we want to help our players to sleep better, we need to give them some knowledge and skills to allow them to do that. Now notice this is knowledge and skills, simple and practical skills. We live in a society where knowledge is more accessible than ever before. You just have to type it into a search engine and you find something out about it. As well as knowing how to sleep well, we have to give people the skills to be able to do that. As well as knowing, for example, what a good leader looks like, we have to give people the skills to be able to do that. As well as knowing what it looks like to perform under pressure, we have to give people the skills to be able to do that. So once we've decided what the vital habits are, what we sometimes call the progress habits, we have to give people the knowledge and the skills to allow them to do that. And if we look at Man City, there's an army of backroom staff, from technical and tactical coaches to people who help the players with their sleep and their exercise. But that in itself isn't enough. Most of us know and have the skills to do lots of things that we know we should be doing, but we don't do them. Everything we do every day is influenced by what we call change factors. These are often hidden things in our environment, in our own cognition, that drive our behaviour, that persuade us to do things and take the first step to building helpful or often unhelpful habits. So if we want to get people to build these progress or vital habits, deliver the outcomes that are going to make the culture successful, we need to tap into these change factors. We often talk about the 6 change factors, although it's more complex than that, but it gives us a simple way to start understanding it. And if we look at the All or Nothing documentary, we can start to see some of these change factors at play, driving the kind of behaviour that Guardiola wants from his team, that ultimately helped the team to achieve the results they did last season. One of those factors we call social rewards. This is, if I do something, I get rewarded, socially rewarded by the people in my environment. And one really interesting example of this, very early on in the City season, was when City were playing Chelsea, which was the former club of Kevin De Bruyne. And City beat Chelsea with a sensational Kevin De Bruyne goal. And when he came back into the changing room, he was enveloped by his jubilant teammates. Started to chant his name and lift him up like he was an all-conquering hero. And it's quite interesting then, if you see some of the other members of the squad, they will want to get in on the action there as well. You know, someone like John Stones, who had a breakthrough season last season, will see that and think, well, I want some of that. But to get some of that, I need to be doing the kind of things that Kevin De Bruyne is doing. You know, and interestingly, Kevin De Bruyne is almost like a textbook excellent pro. He does all the things you'd want a great professional to do, including, you know, he hires his own personal chef to make sure that his nutrition's right. So you see that social reward factor going on and reinforcing the kind of behaviour that will allow Guardiola to get the outcomes that he wants. Another factor at play is what we call social support, and this is Vincent Kompany.
He's the club captain, I believe. Is that right?
He's the club captain,
yeah.
And his nickname is the President. A little bit like, I think, Jamie Peacock at Leeds Rhinos used to be called the Godfather. He has power, and people respect him and they look up to him. And again, he's almost like the exact sort of role model that you want in the dressing room. And interestingly, again, we're using the John Stones example as someone who really, really came of age. He was talking about how Vincent Kompany helps him to improve his game. And, you know, they must be having those conversations, and he's seeing what he needs to do if he wants to get the kind of rewards that Vincent Kompany has got in terms of silverware and in terms of career, etc. So if we want to create habits in an organisation, we need people around us to model that behaviour and support us in our efforts to build those new habits, whether it's for sleep or for something else. So we see the social support factor. And then, say, a third factor that you see very consistent in the documentary is Guardiola himself. And I would say what he's triggering is what we call personal motivation. He keeps reminding the players, this is not about him. He says at one point, it doesn't matter if you like me or not. This is about you. You're going to get your reward if you keep persisting. And he keeps painting the very vivid picture of the big goal those guys are working towards together as a collective and a team. And if we want to build a new habit today in the short term, there needs to be a really good reason why. And Guardiola consistently reminds me of that really good reason why. They need to keep persisting. They need to get back on the field in the second half and secure the goal, or whatever it is. So whatever we're trying to do in our lives, if we understand the 6 change factors, it makes it a lot easier to do those things. 3 very big ideas, I think, that most people are not aware of. One is that their experience of the world is what they pay attention to. And that's what William James said, who's seen as the founding father of psychology, about 110 years ago, when he was setting up the first psychology courses ever in New York. I'd refine that slightly and I'd say what we are in the habit of doing is our experience of the world. What we are in the habit of paying attention to is our experience of the world. If we're in the habit of paying attention to everything that's negative and everything that's bad, we're probably going to have a mental health problem. But the good news is you can change that habit. It's malleable. So that's one idea that everyone needs to understand.
So maybe people might think when you use the word experience, well, it's something that happens to me. But you're actually saying then that because you can change it, it can be an active thing.
We have more control over our experience of the world than anybody else does or any other thing does. Because we are not helpless in how we think, even though a lot of it is automatic. We can take active control. We can stop ourselves beating ourselves up if we have the knowledge and the skills. We can stop ourselves eating that extra piece of cake. We can stop ourselves staying up tonight and watching the extra episode on the Netflix series that we're watching. We do have control. So the next thing to understand is that up to 95%, probably at least 95% of what we're doing right now, how we're thinking, how we're behaving, is simply a habit or a series of habits. It's subconscious, it's mindless behaviour. So not only is our experience of the world driven by habit is most of what we do most of the time. So how we experience in the world is naturally very driven by a very subconscious or very mindless process. It doesn't have to be, because we can pay attention to ourselves and watch ourselves, but left to our natural devices, that's how it unfolds. And the third thing to recognise, again, academic research showing us this, is that most of us, most of the time, are not aware of what is persuading us to build the habits that we build, to build the habits that run our lives. We're not aware of explicitly the driving force that keeps making us check our phone, or that keeps making us beat ourselves up, or that keeps making us eat the wrong things. So these three ideas are driving everything that we do, but we can take control. And the first step is to recognise that most of what you're doing is a habit, and you can start to control via the 6 change factors and designing our interactions with the world, how we experience the world. And by taking control, it's much easier to be healthy, happy, and performing to our potential more often. And when you combine that across a group of people, you get record-breaking seasons like Man City had.
Thanks for listening. You can follow us on Twitter @TougherMinds and check out the website tougherminds.co.uk.
Thanks for listening to the Habit Mechanic podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe and tell someone else about one of the ideas or insights that you found most interesting.